Last night I asked for your scorching hot, actually hot, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures hot takes on YouTube on this post. Now, whenever I make a post, usually I'm either polling something or I'm asking what type of video I want, so make sure you keep up with the post. But this morning I was met with about 34 comments, all dropping different hot takes. So why don't we go through a few of them today? I'll give my reaction on it, and if y'all enjoy the video, just like it up. Okay, well, first we have the part 6 anime was good but had strange animated scenes that are like low budget, and it's because of Netflix schedule was tight for the animators. Now, I do believe that somewhat. I believe when I was watching part 6, it was definitely a different feeling than watching the other feelings, and I love part 6. Some scenes felt a little bit low quality, some of the animation felt a little bit choppy, and it kind of felt like at least the first batch was rushed out a little bit so that they could have something to come out so soon. Because again, I remember from JoJo Day to Stone Ocean coming out, that was 4-ish months, I'm pretty sure. Wait, no. The trailer was 4-ish months. That was 7 months in between the announcement. But I will say this, like, by the time the last batch came, the animation was so beautiful. I love the entire last batch, how it's animated. I love like the little scenes that they did add extra throughout the series, like with Poochie crushing ants while talking about something very important, like things like that. Okay, up next we have, if we're being honest, I have a few. Kira's final battle design is the one I think is the best. Now, before I read the other two, I will say this really quickly. I do completely agree. I love Kira's final battle design. That man looks so fucking cold. The second one is, while I wish they'd release quicker, I like the way English volumes are collected as hardcovers. And the last one is, Google Dolls deserved a better ability. Now, the second one, I think y'all could tell, I definitely agree. Now, with Google Dolls, I definitely do feel like they could have gotten a better ability, but it makes sense why they didn't. You have to remember, she was the first really stand fight we see within JoJo's Bizarre, part 6. You look back at part 5, his first fight was against some random low-level gangster. Part 4, Josuke's first encounter where he actually used his stand. I'm not going to count the thugs who tried to bully him. I'll count Jotaro. And before that, we had Abdal versus Jotaro. So like, usually the first stand fight is made so it'll be like common little weak enemy, or it's just a sparring match to do whatever it is, or so they could showcase the strength. Because Josuke and Jotaro's first stand battle was literally just a showcase of strength between Star Platinum and Crazy Diamond. You know what I mean? Okay, up next we have Hear Me Out, part 5 shouldn't have happened. Yeah, I don't really have much to say on that, just yeah. But I do think that's somewhat acknowledged in part 5 because, you know, the whole fate thing is such a really big hammer home. Araki made sure that everyone got it. Fate is the key. Okay, up next we have Hot Take. Part 3 is the second worst part, and the only reason it ain't the worst is because of the beginning and the ending, but everything in between could have been practically filler, and the stand of the week fights were terrible. Now, I was giving my thoughts. Even though, me personally, I have part 3 on the lower ranking when I rank, like, JoJo part 3 is definitely closer to the bottom than it is to the top, but I don't feel like everything in between felt like filler. There was definitely still a lot of good moments. Like, I really do like Polnareff's development. I like Iggy's development. I do feel like we could have gotten more leading up to them actually going to Dio's castle. And by more, I mean fights that meant more. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of stand fights we got in part 3 that I just felt like, whatever. It was really, we got a lot of whatever fights, you know, and that was a trend that continued somewhat through part 4, but I feel like with part 4, Araki made them a lot more enjoyable because these guys, they aren't traveling to go fight this mythical demon. These guys, they're trying to find a serial killer in their town, and their side missions, they're just running into other stand users within the town. But I do feel like there is somewhat of a drop-off when after you get past the beginning of part 3, like once they actually start going through the trying to find Dio. The first fight we get is the Great Fly. I didn't care about Great Fly, or I don't even remember what that first stand was. It was something to that effect though. And then the second, it was like second or third, we got the orangutan and Dark Blue Moon. I didn't care. I literally didn't care. But the ending was fantastic. The beginning was fantastic, and I feel like some parts in the middle made up for how bad some other parts were. Okay, down here, Lisa is a boring character. I fucked with Lisa, man. I'm not gonna lie, I thought she was pretty funny. And I liked her backstory. You know, and for a part like part 2, which doesn't have that much, there isn't that many chapters or time that they worked with. So what we were given with her, I didn't hate that. I don't think she was boring. And finally, to end this video off, because I know it'll get y'all talking in the comments, someone said George Joestar is peak fiction. Now, I made a video on George Joestar. I still have not read George Joestar. So of course, it will be all on y'all to tell me y'all opinions on how y'all feel about that light novel. I've heard a lot of different ones. I'm very interested to hear some more. Because either everyone says it's peak fiction or it's the worst thing to ever touch their hands. Or they just say it's mid, which is kind of the general consensus opinion I hear the most times. Oh yeah, it's just mid. But that's really all I got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and we're on the road to 5K. So anything helps. Like, comment, subscribe. And if this video gets 1,000 views, you know what? We'll make a part 2. Or if I feel like it, I don't know. I've asked for hot takes a few days ago, and I made a whole video on it, which y'all are probably seeing tomorrow as of the time I'm recording this. But since in that video I said if the video gets 1,000 views, and I don't know if it's gotten 1,000 views yet, I just wanted to make this video, I'm making a part 2. So I have more of y'all scorching, burning, piping hot takes just to service y'all, because there were a lot that were actually sent. There I think was almost 50 comments, even though some of them, granted, are thread comments. Listen, there was still a lot of submissions, so who am I not to get to almost all of them? And I think in this video we can cover a lot of them, because there are a lot of them that were just straight up not as long. Some of them were pretty long, but others of them like 4 words, you know, maybe someone saying one part's better than the other. But straight into it, we have this one. Polnareff was the real jailbro part 3. He had the most fights, most screen time, a better character arc, and a better backstory / motive compared to Kakyoin. I love them both, but to me, Polnareff was the MVP / real jailbro part 3. Now, I 100% agree. That's been one of my takes I've definitely held as I've watched part 3 and rewatched it. Polnareff is one of those guys in part 3 that we see the most. Comparatively to Avdol, who Araki has said he didn't like drawing his stand, and he didn't put that many limitations on his stand, so he didn't know how exactly to use Magician's Red, or Kakyoin, who, even though we had a decent amount of Kakyoin stuff throughout part 3, it definitely felt like later in the part is really where Araki decided to like pinpoint and focus on Kakyoin. And I felt like even the ending solidified that, because again, that was Araki's original ending. Part 3 was Araki's original stopping point, and the ending he had and showed us with Polnareff and the Joestars walking into the distance, going their separate ways, I think that was more to solidify how close and really how much the Joestars changed Polnareff's life, and how much Polnareff helped the Joestars and change their lives. Okay, up next we have parts 6 and 8 get too much hate, and they are peak fiction. Now, I don't know how much of that is a hot take, especially to people who like have actually read the entire series, but you know what? I'll take it. I completely agree. Both of those parts hit. Often with part 8, I hear a lot of people being like, oh, the beginning's a little boring, the beginning's slow paced, but I'm just thinking like, I felt the same way about part 7. I thought part 7's beginning was somewhat slow paced, but I thought they both were interesting. And plus, in part 8, in the first few chapters, we get that bathtub stuff, which, me personally, I thought it was weird, but both of those parts definitely lived up to the hype I personally have for them. With part 6, I read the manga first, so maybe I have a different perception than certain people who only watch the anime. But the manga had me so hyped, and then when I watched the anime, I was still so hyped watching it. It has probably my favorite ending in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. Out of all 8 so far, I think the part 6 ending is probably my favorite. You a real one for saying that. I can't lie. Like, those hit. Okay. Up next, we got the odd numbered. Hold on. The odd number parts are better than the even ones. 5, 7, and 9 specifically are actually peak fiction. I'm really excited to see where JoJo Lands will go next. My next real hot take is that it would be really cool to see the old universe and the new universe have something to do with each other in the future parts. I don't know how, but Araki could make that work. If we're doing odds versus even, 1, 3, 5, 7 versus and 9 versus 2, 4, 6, and 8. That's tough. That's really tough. I think it really depends on how JoJo Lands go in general. If we just do the first 8 parts though, I'm going evens. The reason is, I loved part 2. Part 2 was my favorite part before I watched part 4. Then part 4 became my favorite part. Then I watched part 6. And part 6 was my second favorite part. Until it eventually became my third favorite part behind Steel Ball Run. Well, it's tied for third, honestly, with part 8. So, like, it's a real struggle. You know, they fighting back. But I love Steel Ball Run so much, it's tied for first. It's second, but really it's tied for first. It's only second because I'm biased to part 4. And that's really the only reason. If I didn't just like part 4 more in general, I would give it to part 7. But yeah, it's just part 4. I love part 4. And then as for the second take, I don't know. Me personally, I don't think I really want much more from the old universe, the part 1 through 6 universe. Really, the only thing I can want from anything in that universe is really just side character spin-offs. Besides that, I'm really good. I think I'm good. I feel like the ending of part 6 did such a good job closing that universe off for me. It makes so much sense. It's cool. But it still would be really cool to see though. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it wouldn't be cool. It would still be cool as shit. But I think, me personally, I'm cool. I don't really want that necessarily. If it happened, I would have a problem, but I don't really want it. Okay, up next we have I will hot take Jolene. What does that mean? Jonathan is the most boring Joestar. He suffers from perfect character syndrome, which is a common writing issue that plagues a lot of manga MCs during that time. He's just really boring, and his only defining characteristic is being a gentleman. I will say this, that is an extremely cold take. I find a lot of people say that about Jonathan. Honestly, that's one of the most said about Jonathan in part 1 in general. People just say part 1 is boring as shit. They usually necessarily don't say nothing's wrong with it. They say it's boring. Because compared to the rest of the series and how bizarre everything gets, that's a fair thing to say. You know, it's not necessarily wrong. And do I think he's boring? So. I feel like I could see it, but I don't necessarily think he was boring. He kept me somewhat entertained. Sometimes. Other times, definitely on that phone. Okay, up next we have the cover art has gotten worse in part 9. While I agree, that's not saying that the new cover art is bad. It's saying in part 8, Araki was in his bag so much making volume cover art. I was just shocked. You can't look at some of these and tell me this isn't some of the best volume art Araki has made. These were just ridiculous. Part 8, he was going crazy, especially once we got towards the end. That's really when all of his talents in the pen came out. But also I have to say, just be patient. We're only at the start of part 9. You know what I mean? We still haven't even gotten to the even middle of it. We haven't gotten to the real plot yet, I don't think. Because don't get me wrong, even though we are technically right now in the middle of the plot, I'm talking about when we know the climax is coming and is coming fast. That happens in JoJo parts a lot, and we are nowhere near there yet. And that's usually when Araki and his volume cover arts start going insane. To end it off today, we have Stroheim should have had more screen time. No.
Hey, bye.
Okay, if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is a manga slash anime that has expanded across 9 parts that has over 1,000 chapters by this point and over 100, almost 200 episodes of an ongoing anime. And with that, it is one of the most popular anime mangas to ever come out. Period. But with that being said, there's more hot takes to cover. Having an anime slash manga like that, the fandom is going to be so big, there will be conflicting takes, there will be conflicting opinions, and I'm here to cover some more of them because I saw how y'all felt about the last video and the video before that, and how y'all left takes in the comments, and there's still some more takes on the original post. So of course, I should read over them, and why not dive straight into it? Starting off, hot take 1. I really like the start of part 7 because of all the other parts start with just stand fights after stand fights, but in part 7 it was just horse racing. I like it too. Some people think it's a little slow, but I actually like the slow pace compared to all the other parts where you're just diving straight into the story. 2. Part 2 is one of the best parts because there wasn't any meaningless battles. Every single battle had a reason and an influence on the story, unlike the other parts where they just have a bunch of meaningless battles. 100% hard agree. 100% hard agree. Especially on that second one. I feel like one of my gripes, especially when I first watched it, was because of how good part 2 was. I wanted more. But really, part 2 just did its job so perfectly. This isn't a diss on the other parts or anything like that, This is just keeping it real. What he said right there was complete facts. Everything in part 2 felt like it had meaning. Everything felt like it was building up to the bigger story. Everything felt like it's building up to when we finally meet Cars and we finally see that confrontation. Literally almost everything. Sure, there will still be scenes of funny things and funny shit, or just funny shit Joseph Joestar himself was doing. But things were literally all crashing up straight to that. And I think I appreciate that more with Araki. I really do. I appreciate it more. I appreciate the fact that Araki can or has the willingness to make a story where everything means something right here. You know what I mean? Even though in part 3, some people could try to argue all the stand fights, they mean something, but do they really? Most of those stand fights, I wasn't really even nervous or sweating for the stand user or the Stardust Crusaders. I thought they were just fine. Okay, up next, we have a good few. I think there's 5 hot takes in this one comment. We're just going to go rapid fire with them though, and I'll break it down after. 1. Part 2 and 4 are just as fillerish as part 5. 2. Gyro has the weakest motivation to participate in the race. 3. Funny Valentine is a good antagonist but really overrated. 4. Battle Tendencies has the best comedy while Stardust Crusaders has the worst. 5. If you disrespect Golden Wind, you disrespect Araki himself. After reading some interviews, it's obvious how intimate this part and its characters have been for the author and carried him through hard times. Good lord, even though I don't agree with all these takes are bangers. Okay, break it down. 1. Yes. I don't think there's really an argument that parts 2 and 4 aren't quote-unquote as filler-ish as part 5. Even though I don't think of none of the story as fillerish. I feel like every part is a necessary step to the next part, especially since it's all going in chronological order. It would be different if Araki's skipping around. He's going from the 80s to the 70s to the 2000s to the 90s. No, he's going from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010s. 2. Saying Gyro has the weakest motivation, I cannot agree, because look at Johnny. Johnny deadass joined the Steel Ball run just to learn about the Gyro's Steel Ball, essentially, because it gave him the power to walk again. He had the chance, and he believed that would have given him the chance to walk again, right? Gyro, he was literally joining it. He did it for a child. a child who was about to get executed that he felt like shouldn't. I feel like it wasn't that weak either, because even look at Hot Pants. She was sent there to the Steel Ball Run race, so as a spy. She did it for her brother. I don't know. That's more of a toss-up, honestly. I don't think it's... As a matter of fact, it might be. Because all of them had kind of selfish reasons for wanting the Saints course and joining the Steel Ball Run race. 3, Funny Valentine's a good antagonist, but a little bit overrated. I mean, really overrated. Yeah. I don't think he's that overrated, but I can see that. Battle Tendencies does have the best comedy. Either that or part 4. Worst comedy it's definitely part 1 to me. I'm sorry. Stardust Crusaders, though, I can understand why you put Stardust Crusaders up there, because they had a lot of weird comedic moments. And finally, the Golden Wind one. I think it's the most interesting. I think it's probably the most important hot take we've gotten so far, honestly, because a lot of people do not understand how really important Golden Wind is to Araki himself. One of the things that you find, like, especially if you're someone who's like super deep into JoJo's Bizarre Adventures and you want to learn a lot more about Hirohiko Araki's work, is that during part 5 and while he was making part 5, he was going through a lot of personal issues. He was going through a lot of his own things that were going on in his personal life, and that reflected in his work. It caused him to make pivots and changes within part 5. 2 things I know for sure that he made changes to was originally Giorno was going to be a woman. Giorno, because he wanted, like, while he was creating the concept of part 5, he wanted there to be a female JoJo first, but his editor told him it's too early for that. They ain't ready for that. And they tried to do that. They tried to do the same thing with Stone Ocean, but he said he was just going to do it either way. So that's why you have Jolene. But another thing is that he stopped Fugo from becoming a traitor, like betraying the group and like fighting them and all that. But even when you look at the symbolism within part 5, it's very personal, especially when you actually look at the details within part 5. You look at what is presented in front of you, like the fact that he decided to go with a Christian symbolic conflict between Giorno, who would be classified as the son of God because he's the son of Dio, and Diablo, whose name literally means the devil. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like part 5, after a while, as we started to give more respect to part 4 and all the other parts, we started to take respect away from part 5. Part 5 should be really respected because I feel like it's one of the strongest parts, just fully all the way through. I could rewatch part 5 at any point and never get bored. Like, it's one of those parts, at least to me. Okay, up next we have my really hot take is that the chapters where Funny Valentine forced himself onto Lucy Steele were necessary, because otherwise we would think Giorno and Johnny were the real villains, since Funny Valentine, in my opinion, had better intentions with the corpse. I disagree. I can see how do I put this? I can see how it's perceived that they could have been saw as the like actual villains, but it's also understanding the setting. This is a race that the 4 people that we have their motivations, Johnny, Gyro, Hot Pants, and Diego, all 4 of them are operating in very selfish manners to get the Saints corpse. But you can't say Funny Valentine himself isn't operating in a selfish manner either. Funny Valentine wanted the corpse and wanted to take the corpse in a very underhanded and underlying tactic, attacking anyone who was actually collecting them, hiring mercenaries, hiring people to come kill these people. None of that's ethical. None of that would make me think that, oh yeah, Funny Valentine's actually a good guy, or they're evil. No, they're the ones that were literally on their race getting attacked 90% of the time. Don't get me wrong, did they steal a few Saints corpse parts? Yes. But was there times where they got their whole inventory stolen from them? Yes. Now, did that deplorable act boost Funny Valentine and make him seem more as this unimaginable, unstoppable threat? Yes. But could Araki have done that without adding in those scenes? Yes. We've seen menacing characters where we've never seen their action shown literally until the end of their series. We've seen that. We've seen characters who talk really big and they have these mercenaries, especially in JoJo, and they have these mercenaries that go and try to attack these people, but we never see their on-screen ability. We just hear about what they do. Araki easily could have made it so Funny Valentine was doing underhanded things within America to try to boost them globally compared to other countries. He could have, but he didn't. That's why I disagree. There were different ways to make him seem more evil. But even then, I don't feel like he really needed that. And to end this video off today, we have one last one, which says, people hate on part 1 too much. Obviously, it cannot compete with something like part 8, but it's just a little great story with haunting elements that make it super fun to read. Yes, that is true in my book. In my book, I completely agree. I think part 1 is a very fun story to read, especially when you don't have some hater in your ear yelling, this shit is so ass. It's kind of like what I personally call the Little Caesars effect, where you can have a really bad restaurant that everyone fucking hates, but for some reason your taste buds just latch onto it and you never let it go. So now whenever you're eating it in public, you're a little embarrassed because now people, they just look at you. They give you that look like, ugh, I know your bowels are fucked up. To me, it's the same Mandela effect with part 1. But to you, I say the same thing that I would say to people who hate on watching part 1. Part 1 is so fantastic when you do not have a hater in your ear telling you that shit is ass. Just watch the shit. But if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. So a few hours ago, I asked again what your JoJo hot takes are, and some of you have already responded. And this comes off the back of people asking for more hot take videos, but some of you have already responded telling me some more hot takes. So why don't we go through some more? And oh man, this is going to be fun. See, I spent the day looking through some of my old hot take videos and looking at some comments I never responded to or never made into a video or never made it into a video. Then I'm looking at some of the new comments and I'm like, oh wow, these are some hot takes. But let me stop stalling. Up first, hot take, part 2 is the best. Part 9 is meh so far, and Thus Spoke Rohan Kashibe is better than part 5. Now, off personal opinion, part 2 is fantastic. I don't think it's the best. Part 9 though, that part 9 opinion, I don't think part 9 so far is meh. I actually like it a lot. I feel like we're getting like quickly into the story. And as far as part 5 and Thus Spoke Rohan Kashibe, I'm gonna have to hard disagree there, but brother, like I just can't. I love Rohan, love Thus Spoke Rohan Kashibe, but man, story wise, oh yeah, Thus Spoke Rohan Kashibe don't even got a thought. They don't even got a chance against part 5. But that's to me. Some of y'all may have different opinions, and I respect that. But to me, yeah, hell no. Hot take, Johnny should have been ginger in the official anime design. No. Of everything we've seen of the Steel Ball Run PNGs so far, I like Johnny's design. You know, I don't feel like his hair really needs to be changed, even though I don't think it was changed that much. It just got a little bit longer and a little bit thicker. But other than that, and usually with that usually happens with animes. But other than that, I feel like it's fine. I never felt like his hair or like the color of his hair was really a crucial part of where people were coming from when they felt like, oh, this looks weird. All I really feel like most people were coming from was just kind of the animation style and what outfit they gave him, because everyone wanted the baby blue. Okay, up next we have hot take. 1. Diavo was defeated too quickly and was overshadowed by Silver Chariot Requiem. 2. The side characters in part 4 did not get enough of a highlight despite them being some of the best characters in said part. And 3. Avdol did not get enough time in the spotlight nor a well-defined backstory like the rest of the Crusaders. Okay, let's break it down. First, I can somewhat agree with that. I know everyone was waiting for that big final fight. You know, that last fight feel of Diablo versus Yorno, but it also makes sense narratively why we just don't get that. Diablo has always been somebody who skimmed fate by the skin of his teeth. So he thought this time, even though Jorno had the Requiem arrow and he just got the Requiem power, he could do the same thing again. Now, I would be lying if I said I wouldn't want a Golden Experience Requiem versus King Crimson fight, but I still think it should still be close to, if not just as fast as it actually was, because the thing about their encounter that we actually do see, Diablo, all he had to do was stop time skip, and maybe, just maybe, he would have gotten the fatal hit off, because he was in time skip when Jorno first unlocked Golden Experience Requiem. It was only the second that he stopped it, which was because he tried to hit Golden Experience Requiem. That's when GR's reaction time just went haywire and he was cooked. Now for 2, yes and no. No, because there are entire episodes where we don't really see Josuke. You know what I mean? There are entire episodes we don't really see Josuke. And really, I'm thinking about the Rohan Koichi episodes. We didn't see Josuke most of those episodes. But I can also understand that, but I feel like that comes from the fact that Araki was trying to create such a lively town that he was giving all these different characters personalities, so that even when you aren't reading about Morio, you can always think about, well, I wonder what this character's doing. I wonder what the town chef is doing. I wonder what the beauty salon, rip Cinderella, but I wonder what she was doing. But no, I can definitely agree with that though. I feel like there's sometimes overlooked. But like Okuyasu, I feel like he was definitely one who should have gotten more major fights and major moments instead of just the Red Hot Chili Peppers arc and the ending and a lot more. I feel like he should have just got more. And 3, and this is actually one of my biggest gripes on this channel, so I'm so glad someone else is saying this. Avdol should have gotten more fucking time. There was no reason they had to do Avdol like that. Now, if I remember correctly, Araki said he didn't know what to do with Avdol because he didn't put that many limitations on Magician's Red, and he said it was either Avdol or Magician's Red that was hard to draw, or he just didn't like drawing a lot. But that's no excuse. That's no excuse. We should have gotten at least just one chapter of backstory. I promise you, we would have been fed. We would have been fed so nicely. Like, if you can give all these other side characters in your entire series all these different backstories, you can give Avdol one. He's not that different. And the crazy thing is, Araki and stuff has even said he's regretted for how he treated Avdol, which is, it just makes me sad. Okay, up next we have Stone Ocean is a top 3 part in the series. Yes. I don't care how many people get mad at me when I say this. I still to this day think Stone Ocean is a top 3 part. Because my personal top 3 goes off parts that made me feel something. And Stone Ocean damn sure made me feel a lot. A lot more than some other parts can say. Like, when you have a pro tag like this, it's hard. It's hard not to say she's a fantastic character, brother. The shit she was doing in part 6, still to this day, if you downplay her, you need to pick up a book and read. And then to end the video off today, we have one of the first hot takes I actually saw for the day, which says, Part 7 is better than Part 8 for various reasons like characters, plot, and etc. But I think for a more casual reader, Part 8 is a lot more fun because it's just wacky and bizarre to the fullest. Araki pulled so many ideas to read that you learn something new every arc, which, yeah. If you ever want a fun read and you stopped after part 7, you don't know the joys you're depriving yourself of by not reading part 8. Part 8 is so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Ever since I've read it, I've been advocating for so many people. I keep telling everybody, it's so fucking good. Part 8 has some excellent fucking comedy to the point where you're just like, man, am I really laughing at this shit? Yes. Yes, you are. But even past that, I feel like the stand designs were actually genuinely insane. I feel like the only thing that could be worked on at this point in part 8, which would have been like the character work. And even then, the characters, even though they weren't as quote unquote well written, they were a lot of fucking fun. Like, that main cast was a lot of fucking fun. And the side characters, like any rock human that we got, bro, their personalities always had me fucking dying. You know, and on top of that, we have one of the most iconic people in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures in part 8. Technically, he's not a person, but Wonder of You. You gotta read it. But that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Part 2 is a top 3 part because it perfectly shows how bizarre this show is. Yep, we're back with more JoJo hot takes. This is part 5. Part 5 of JoJo hot takes. But I'm only doing this because I know y'all want more. And to add on, let's start with the first one I just read. Do I think part 2 is a top 3 JoJo part? For me personally, no. But would I be mad at you saying that? No, I wouldn't. Part 2 is an excellent JoJo part. It literally personifies all the bizarreness it can in one part in 12, 13 episodes. It's insane. I love part 2 so much. If it was longer, or if we had more side missions between Caesar and Joseph, I feel like it would be higher on my personal list. But with it only being 13 episodes, that's why I have it lower. But I can get why people have part 2 so high. It is such a bizarre, funny, almost perfect story all the way through. I have a feeling that Civil War is at the very least a top 3 part 7 stand. In terms of the whole series, I think it will probably be top 8. The Locke and Mr. Tamani arc was intriguing, but Civil War conveys the concept of weaponized guilt better. It reminds me of Swamp Action in MGS3 or Powder Hallucinations in Arcane. Plus, stands are always connected to the user's ambitions. Smooth operated to change Dragona's appearance, White Snake and company to achieve heaven. But this one is so deeply personal, connected to Ro, that it's probably the best example of connected to the ambitions concept. Keep in mind, I don't like Guns N' Roses one bit, but this is a great stand concept. I personally agree. Now, top 3, I feel like it could be argued because there are stands that we don't know the feats of for real, like Ballbreaker, but Ballbreaker does have insane feats, so I feel like you could put that over Civil War, but Civil War can definitely be put up high. But the part where I mainly agree is the fact that Civil War is a great stand concept. I feel like it's one of Araki's best stand concepts because weaponized guilt in such a way like that, oh my god. The only people who can escape it are people who really don't feel guilty, i.e. Funny Valentine. Like, that was so funny. Bro, he pulled up out of nowhere, gun in hand, shot him like 4 times and took the corpse. But yeah, I do feel like Civil War is a great stand. I feel like it's a great stand concept, and I do feel like it's extremely strong. I'm not sure if this is a hot take, but I think Wonder of You is one of the best stand designs. It just looks so menacing. I wouldn't call that a hot take either, but that's 100% true, so we gonna let it slide. Jonathan being underrated, quote unquote, doesn't make him good. Not even underrated, he's overrated. Wow. If anything, I feel like Jonathan's more so underrated-ish to the perfectly rated, because he's downplayed by a lot of people, but like overrated, I don't even hear too many people move him past bottom or top 8 Joestar. If you move him to top 3 Joestar, people usually in the comments are like, bro, move him out of there. Why you gotta talk about my GOAT like that? What did Jonathan do? What did my GOAT Jonathan do to you? He can't just chill. Part 6 is better than part 5 and always has been. Used to get crucified for saying this before even part 4 anime came out. Me personally, I do have part 6 over part 5, but I don't think it's like some super big gap. Like on my personal rankings, if Stone Ocean's at 3rd, part 5 is at 5th. You know what I mean? But I do feel like a lot of Golden Wind fans don't want to hear that, so they're ready to crucify anyone and everyone moving part 5 out of the top 3 part, which I can get writing for your favorite part, but sometimes y'all be a lot. But I could say that about a lot of different other parts. Part 3 fans, part 7 fans, sometimes part 6 fans. Yeah. With part 2 fans, it's more so when you have Joseph Joestar on the lower end of Joestars, then they get angry, which somewhat understandable. To end it off, AU Diego sucks ass and ruins the pacing of Steel Ball Run's ending. The fight was great, don't get me wrong, but the fact that it's not the Diego that we've been following throughout the part lessens the emotion for me. Yeah, I kind of agree, I'm not gonna lie. I just felt like when he showed up, I was more so confused than excited to see the world. You know, it was still cool, but I was still confused. And then once I got it, I was just like, oh, I thought Valentine was the last fight. But, you know, I can still understand somewhat what Araki wanted to do. It was a lot of fan service, which some fans ate it up. Other fans, they just weren't feeling it, you know. I was somewhat feeling it, but it wasn't what I was expecting. I thought the last 5 chapters would be him, really be wrap-up chapters. But Araki, he always, you know, tries to keep us expecting the unexpected. So I'm not giving my guess. It's still an move. You know what? Why not do one more? I have one more, which I feel like it's actually going to get the comments low-key, maybe in the uproar. Hot take. Bruno is the best JoBro in the entire series. Yes, in my opinion, I put him above Gyro. Now, the thing is, I hear a lot of people be like, you can't put anyone above. Like, they have Gyro so high, they'll put like a gap between 1 and 2. And I just be like, whoa, y'all are tweaking. Now, me personally, I don't know. I don't have, for either one, I love both of them so much. I don't have a personal opinion on who I think is better or who I think is worse. But I know a lot of people, they don't feel the same way. Now, I personally met and have mutuals with a lot of JoJo fans who do, and who actually do like both of them and have both of them at 1 and 2. But Bruno was different, so I can always respect if someone puts him at 1. I can, because sometimes, depending on the day of the week, I might put him at 1. You know, you can never trust me with a JoBro ranking. That's why I always say like top 5, top 3, top 2. Because sometimes them top 5s, they're interchangeable. When you rewatch and remember everything they did, they be like, oh, maybe I gotta move them up. And that's really how it felt like whenever I make videos on Bruno, especially like standalone videos, 10, 12-minute videos. Bro, I'm going through all this research. I'm like, oh, he did do that. And he did that. And he did that. So low-key, I can respect it. In all honesty, I can respect it. I know some people can't, which I'm interested to hear what opinions are on all the hot takes I've said today and what more hot takes y'all have in the future. But if you enjoyed the video today, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. The people yearn for hard takes like they're stuck in the middle of the Sahara Desert with no water. Their only choice is either hot takes or water. And you know what they're going to decide every time? The fucking hot takes. I literally made a post late last night, maybe 6, 7, maybe 8, just asking if y'all got any JoJo hot takes, let me hear them. And y'all didn't disappoint. By the time me recording this, which is only like 12 hours later, we got a good amount of hot takes, and some of them are extra spicy, I won't lie. Coming up first, you have Arena Pendleton is a more tougher woman than Lisa ever was. Arena never remarried after Jonathan's death, but Lisa remarried after Georgia II's death. Now, do I think that makes Arena tougher than Lisa? No. I don't think that makes her tougher. I just think Lisa did not want to be lonely for her entire life. Y'all gotta remember, Lisa only had one kid. At least with Arena, She literally spent the majority of her life raising children. She spent the majority of her life post Jonathan raising the next 2 generations. Not only just her daughter and her son, but also her grandson too. I do feel like Arena's tougher. I just don't think that's the reason. I also don't think it's by a large margin because again, Lisa, no fear, walked into a whole castle full of vampires. Niggas who are around Dio's level. And really was disrespecting them with ease. Looking at them dead in their face, looking at the pyramid dead in their face. She literally made a fucking deal with Cars right as all the vampires were going to try to beat her up. She got her scarf out, she was ready to whip all of them. The random twist that Joseph cheated is such a random thing to add. I get that it was necessary for Josuke to be born, and the fact that he's always been a sucker for the ladies, but I feel like there could have been a better way to go about that all, you know? Despite his nature in part 2, he's much more loyal than most would assume. Which, yeah. See, as the years have gone by, I've always flip-flopped on how I felt about Joseph cheating on his wife because sometimes I feel like that's somewhat in character, but other times you look at throughout the rest of part 2 and even throughout part 3, you're like, is that in character? It really doesn't feel like it. It feels like he would do anything for the people he cared about. I mean, hell, he even had his assistants lie to his own wife and be like, yeah, he's just away visiting your daughter, he'll be back, they're all good. Just because he didn't want her to worry or be afraid of what was going to happen to him if he would die or whatever. Kakyoin deserved to make it to part 4 more than Joseph. You know, I kind of agree with that. Honestly, Joseph in part 4, he doesn't really do much except be like a funny old father. You know, at least with Kakyoin, we could have seen some very interesting dynamics, and we could have gotten the official confirmation of Kakyoin being from Morio, which that's a long-standing theory. I don't remember if Araki confirmed it or not. I could be wrong. Part 3 worst part, part 6 tied with it as the worst. No. Jotaro didn't have to die. I disagree. He had to die in part 6. That's really all that had to happen. He had to die in part 6. Because even Jotaro making it back was already miraculous. Jotaro making it back at the right time, right before Jolene got shot by Pucci picking up a security guard's gun, that was miraculous. Jotaro almost literally having an opportunity to hurt Pucci after Anasui jumped in front of him to give him more time and more of a chance. Again, miraculous. But we would have lost out on so much character development and who Jotaro's character actually was and what Araki was trying to show us throughout every time Jotaro appeared had he went for the kill on Pucci. Because again, he goes for the kill on Pucci, Jolene probably gets hurt or dies, which would cause Jotaro, someone we've seen literally only go out his way for family and close friends that he really cares about. Of course he's gonna protect his daughter. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like he had to die in that moment because it was perfect symbolism for what he was. At the end of the day, he has all these actions, he acts tough, he acts hard, but at the end of the day, he will always look out for his family, even at the detriment of himself. Part 5 could have had so much more potential from a storytelling perspective. With it being a crime drama, we could have just used stands for plot twists instead of traditional fights. I actually do agree with that. You know, I feel like I already have part 5 rated pretty high. You know, I really do like part 5 a lot. But one of the things that could have put it just a little bit higher would have been the plot twist. Don't get me wrong, we already got some good ones in part 5, like when Bruno came back from the dead after everyone thought he was dead. And even watching the chase down and Giorno ended up actually getting Requiem, it has a fair amount of plot twists. You know, even though I feel like Requiem was a plot twist for whatever. But if it were to be stronger, a little bit more plot twists, like if Araki did not take out some of the dark elements he originally had in the story, like Fugo turning against Bushiroad's group and trying to kill them when they go against the boss, or Giorno being revealed as a woman midway through the part. If you would have kept those elements, I feel like part 5 might have been a little bit stronger, but I don't feel like it was so detrimental to the point where it super affected him, you know what I mean? And to end it off today, we have Abdul was a wasted and neglected character. His stand was strong, and he's only been in fights with other characters, never solo. And that is 100% true. If you've been on this channel long enough, you know that I like talking about Abdul. I like giving y'all clarity on what Araki felt about Abdul, because he said in multiple interviews what he felt about Abdul. And he's also even said that he felt like when he brought him back, he should have given him a bigger role, because he had already basically almost killed this man. You know, like he already almost killed him off. So he felt like he should have gave him a bigger role, should have did more, but he felt like his power was just too everywhere. Fire, you can do a lot with fire, and there's almost no restrictions you can really put on it. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Part 9 is already the best part. No, only because we're so young into it. I mean, we're still only 2 years in, and we're only, what, 24, 25 chapters in. Though, it has been very entertaining. Honestly, it's one of my favorite starts to a part, probably ever. I can't say it's the best. Today, we are back with more JoJo hot takes, because every time I post about JoJo hot takes, y'all always flock to the post responses, which, thank y'all. I think this is like part 7 of JoJo hot takes. It's one of the longest running series we have on this channel, probably just behind Who Deserves Better, which a new video of that will probably be coming out soon. The ending of part 6 should have had Jolene beat Poochie before he reset the universe, like she clotheslined him or something along those lines. Now, I halfway think this is a joke comment, because you said she clotheslines this nigga. I've never seen someone in JoJo's get killed with a clothesline. But if you're being serious, no. Jolene should not beat Poochie. Like, there was just no. Poochie died exactly how he should have died. I don't think anything about part 6 ending needs to be changed, because even what Jolene does at the end is literally a symbiotic tribute to Jonathan, and literally shows the closing of the chapter of the Joestar curse and just the original universe's Joestar clan. I don't feel like there's any need to change that, especially when Araki himself said that if he didn't change what the ending originally was going to be, and he had just did what he was planning to do originally, which was just keep this series going, or like he wasn't really, he was always planning on ending at part 6. Part 6 was a hard cutoff, but he was not planning on continuing the series at all. He originally was planning on ending it with, I think, Jolene winning. Again, I don't know what his original ending plans were. He never said them, but like he was planning on ending it and then immediately writing a new manga. That has nothing to do with JoJo's, but that manga ended up being Steel Ball Run, and he ended up changing what he was going to do so he can make an avenue for him to go back to Steel Ball Run and just go back to the past. Among the already animated JoJo parts, JoJo's is at its best when Dio is not actively involved. In my opinion, part 4 over part 5, part 5 equal part 2, part 2 over 6, 6 over 3, and 3 over or equal to 1. Now, that's an interesting ranking. I would make slight shifts, but like I'm not too mad at it. You know, part 5 would be 3rd, part 6 would be 2nd, part 4 would still be 1st, and part 2 would be right in front of part 3. Right there, just a little bit. I like part 2 just a little bit more than I like part 3, but with my whole thing with part 3 might just be length more. George Joestar is one of the worst books I've ever read, and the only thing I enjoyed there was OP Cars. Well, that's interesting. Now, I've made an entire video about George Joestar, just talking about it, saying that I've never read it, but like even from most of the reviews I get, it's just like a basic, overpowered, wonky fan manga. That's literally all I hear. And in all honesty, the more I learn about it, the more it sounds like just the JoJo's version of like Dragon Ball F. You know what I mean? If you were really deep into the Dragon Ball community, you've seen a bunch of the fan mangas, you know, Goku's son Zycor, stuff like that. That's what George Joestar feels like to me, which there's nothing wrong with that. You know, when I was younger, I definitely probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more because I used to enjoy the Dragon Ball fan mangas. But yeah, George Joestar, I don't think it's the worst thing ever, but like, I've yet to fully read it. The art style beyond part 7 is very ugly. I very hard disagree. Like, it's a very, very strong disagree. I feel like Araki was at his best between the years of probably like 1999 or 2000 all the way up to 2013. You know, because you look at the fucking part 8 manga, especially at the start, oh my god, this may be a little bit of glaze, you know, it might be because he's one of my favorite artists of all time also, but I loved part 8 manga, like the early art style, because that early art style, it just carried on to the exceptional art that was in part 7, you know. So far I've really liked the part 9 art. Again, it gets a little bit same face syndrome-y, same with part 8 of course, but I don't feel like it's so bad to where I'm like, this is so ugly. You know, that's just my personal opinion. I don't think it's that bad. Kira should have won. No, he shouldn't have. See, I hate when people say that, and I'm really finna get into this one right here, because this one I really want to talk about. I hate when people say that, because Kira, if you look at that entire fight, there was at no point Kira was actually winning. The only time he was actually winning is when he literally had to use another stand user to give him some type of advantage. He is a literal long range connoisseur. He's supposed to be great at long range, but what does Josuke do? Beat him at his own game. Then they get short range, and Kira really gets outclassed in a short range battle against Josuke. Kira should not have won. There is no capacity to which he should have won at all. There was a reason why Kira didn't want to be in the same close quarters as Josuke unless he had Stray Cat. If he didn't have Stray Cat, Kira's running away. Like, that's why I always encourage people to go back and watch that fight in particular, because of all the final fights, Kira versus Josuke is one of my favorites because it's straight hands and mind games. There's no real power boost. Of course, Kira has bites the dust, but again, that's a power boost if Kira gets it on a civilian who's not a stand user and gets them to try to stop Kira. You know what I mean? Other than that, it's basically just basic Killer Queen versus basic Crazy Diamond, and basic Crazy Diamond is giving Killer Queen the meanest hands of his fucking life. And to end it off today, parts 1, 5, and 6 are very overhated. Yes. I can say yes 200 times. Yes. Part 1 is too short to be appreciated, and it's on top of the fact that since it follows a somewhat basic plot, it's always going to be seen as boring no matter how action-packed it is within the first few and throughout the entire part. Like, I was going to say the first few episodes, but throughout the entire part, basically, except maybe 1 or 2 episodes in the 9 episode part, you're not getting fights. Part 5, I don't know. Most people who have critiques with part 5, they're like, oh, Diablo sucks and Giorno's boring, and the only saving grace is the side characters, which, again, I don't agree. I feel like part 5, as far as story wise, has one of the best stories out of in the entirety of JoJo's. Linear stories, yes, it has one of the best stories. And part 6, it just suffers because Jolene lost a lot of the times. Because a lot of times when people bring up part 6, they'll say, oh, I don't feel the chemistry between all the characters, which some of them maybe, but part 6 has a fair amount of funny moments. Like, honestly, had me fucking dying whenever he would go to Foo Fighters like, yo, you said you would help me. Hold up your end of the bargain. Now make Jolene trip. I don't know. I just think they're all very overhated, so I 100% agree with your hot take. But that's really all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is such a long-running series. It's bound to be people who disagree with a lot of things that are seen as popular within the community. But today, I don't want to talk about people. I want to talk about me. Because I made a poll asking what video y'all would want to see, again, on my bulletin board and my TikTok, all that. But I made a video asking what video would y'all want to see, and y'all said my JoJo hot takes. So get ready for my piping, scorching hot takes. I'm joking. A lot of these takes probably won't be that hot, in all honesty, because after I made that video idea, I was just thinking like, do I even have that many hot takes? I mean, most of the takes I have, I wouldn't consider them to be hot takes, but some people might find them to be. I don't know. And to start off, hot take, Poochie's the best villain in all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. Yeah, that's how we're starting this shit off. Hot take, mostly because I fuck with him a lot and he's from the South. Okay, let me be real. I find Poochie's, like, his whole reasoning and his goal and his actual character, I find it to be very entertaining. And I also find his dynamic with Weather Report to be very entertaining, because Weather Report is someone that by all means had his life fucked by Poochie. Literally fucked. And Poochie does not care about that. He doesn't even give the slightest damn about the fact that he essentially fucked his brother's life. He doesn't. And he thinks he did it for the greater good. He thinks he did it for his well-being, when in reality, like Weather Report said, this man Poochie is the worst kind of evil. The evil that doesn't even believe they're evil. And honestly, I think I fuck with that more than like the pure evil or the over arrogance, like the pure evil or the over arrogance, I'm perfect, I'm better than you type mindset. I fuck with Poochie's more because Poochie is really deluded under the idea that he's helping everybody by doing this. That because of his own shitty life, he can enforce his own beliefs on everyone else because, well, their lives are going to be better by contrast. That's another reason why I love talking about Funny Valentine too, because he has like a mindset that's kind of similar to Poochie's, especially when you look at his goal. Except with Funny Valentine, his goal, his words of what his goal is compared to his actual actions are two completely different things. But I made an entire video on that. If you ever want to watch my analysis of Funny Valentine's characters, right there. I don't care much for Narancia, being honest, you know, being 100% real with y'all. I don't care much for him. I do sympathize with him. I feel bad for him. I mean, I liked his character, but I don't care about Narancia for real. Like, even when he died at first, I was really confused, because then I just see Giorno raked over the fucking rails, and I'm like, there's no way Giorno died. And then I remember, oh, they switched bodies, and we find out it was Narancia, and I'm just like, oh, well, that's sad, but like, realistically, what was he doing to Diavolo? You know, unless of course he caught him off guard, but like I'm not trying to be an ass. I know there's a lot of people who really fuck with Narancia, and that's fine and dandy. I just could never get the click. I never got the spark. This is more of like a neutral take. I actually enjoyed Part 8's ending. Do I feel like it was somewhat rushed? Yes. Do I feel like if I was reading it monthly, I would have been angrier than the way I read it, which was like 2 years after it ended, 3 years, 4 years? Like, yeah, I would have been angry. But honestly, I enjoyed it. I feel like there was some things that could have been tied up better, like Holly, Kira, Joestar, her whole ending. I feel like that could have been tied up better, but I actually enjoyed it. I liked it. Part 9 has the potential to be the best part in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. From the little bit I've seen of it, it looks fantastic. Almost everything has been hitting so far, but then again, we are in the first 30. But you got to remember, when you look at Part 8, a lot of people, they disrespect Part 8 because it's slow start, but Part 9 started fast. We started quick. We were immediately right there. Now, I don't feel like Part 8 has a slow start, but I do feel like Part 9 has that. It has that fire and a good chance for it to have everything it needs to get that push to be the one of the better parts. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I find the Stardust Crusader side cast to be pretty weak, honestly. And it's not really anyone's fault, you know. Jotaro is Jotaro, cool. Kakyoin, he was cool. I liked him a little bit, but it was whatever. I like Polnareff probably the most of the side cast. Avdol is technically the one I like the most, but he barely got any screen time, so I can't even count him like that. Iggy was great. Joseph was cool. He was good. But like, comparing that side cast to almost any other part side cast, except maybe like part 2, like before stands, like every side cast post stands, I don't have the Stardust Crusaders over them. That's just me personally. And then to end the video off, this is a hot take to some, not to others. Jolene is within my top 3 JoJos. Full stop. Jolene is within my top 3 JoJos. And I can explain, but like I've explained like 1,000 times. At this point, if you don't like Jolene, you just don't like Jolene. You know, nothing's really going to change your mind about her being in my top 3. But guess what, nigga? She's in my top 3. But if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe. You know we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Diablo is carried by Doppio. That is a hot take given by one of my Discord members that I have asked for their scorching hot, very hot takes. And you may also wonder why I'm standing. Don't worry about it. Anyway, this is one of about like 7, right? So I'm about to just rapid read these off right here. Well, Squadra was kind of dragged, but also needed more time. I definitely agree with that. The Diablo is carried by Doppio. He also say he's a bum without Doppio. Kakyoin might be the worst and most boring JoBro. Insane. Kakyoin is dull. Pucci never did anything wrong. It's still great, but SBR is a little overrated. JoJolian is better. Now, that is some crazy hot takes, honestly. I think the one I want to spend the most time on is probably the Kakyoin one. Now, most boring JoBro / worst. If I had to pick someone in JoJo who's the worst quote-unquote JoBro, it might just be Kakyoin. I'm sorry. As a matter of fact, no. Might be Will. But like, even Will did, you know, some stuff, but I didn't care. Like, I care for Will, but I didn't care that much for Will. I care more than a lot of fans to actually remember his name. Like, I've always said, personally, I didn't care that much for Kakyoin. Like, as I've gotten older, I've understood the Kakyoin hype a little bit more, but it was never like, oh man, I love Kakyoin so much. Like, unfortunately for me, I have like 3 side characters and probably 3 above him, so I can't defend him. So we're just gonna move on from Kakyoin. Pucci never did anything wrong. That's a crazy ass take. That's a crazy ass take. He definitely did some shit wrong. He did a lot of shit wrong. Trying to change people's free will is kind of wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, and for me, JoJolian and SBR, they're so close. Like, they're so close. And like, writing and almost everything, I literally have a video up here talking about how much I love the JoJolian ending. You know, they're so close, but SBR a little overrated. I can see how some people say it's overrated, but I love SBR, so like, I personally think it's the best written part in JoJo, or either the best or the second best. But the thing is, Hirohiko he putting out some hitters when it comes to writing, so a lot of them are closer than a lot of people make them seem, in my opinion. You know, and then to end it off with him, the Squadra one, just yeah, yeah. Sex Pistols is the best stand. Everybody loves Sex Pistols, so automatically, biasly, yes, it is. Abdul is awful Arab representation. See, I personally am not of that, you know, descent. So I can't comment on like his representation in that way because I don't know much about that culture. But yeah, I could just looking at his character, I could see how it's bad representation. Abdul doesn't really get much for most of part three beyond like some basic character indentions, but then besides that, it's like, hey, there's Abdul. Oh, bye Abdul. Oh, there's Abdul again. No, there's not. And plus, I've already talked about my own gripes with Abdul. Here you go, Rocky. And plus, like that one, honestly, that's just correct because here you go, Rocky even said himself he just didn't know what to do with Abdul. Like he said himself with that with the JoJolium stuff and him redoing the covers, and then for each volume he had like a little character page. For Abdul's character page, if you go back, if you have the Stardust Crusader volume, English volume that has Abdul on the cover, there will be a page in the back of it, and he will be talking about that. And he'll be like, "Yeah, I did not know what to do with that nigga's character." Because when I first read that, I was dumbfounded, but it made sense. It made complete sense. Diablo deserved what he got in the sense of someone robbed a house. The homeowner said, "Hey, the only thing I have to defend myself with is the infinite torture nexus. So get the hell out of here, bro, for your own sake." And the robber just kept going anyways. Yeah. I don't know. Way I'm thinking about it, if I'm Diablo, after I just watch this nigga get Requiem and then start floating in the sky, if I do put on my ability, it's gonna be so I can turn around like this and walk away. I'm not fighting you. Why are you floating? That's why are you floating? No, let me get out of here. And obviously, at that point, Jordan wouldn't just let him go. And I'm pretty sure Diablo even said something about that. And he was like, "Oh, I gotta hit him in order to get out of here or something." But like, my first instinct is just trying to walk or run away, hide, do something. I'm, I'm sorry. Um, Johnny's death was the best way his character could have ended. His selfishness throughout SBR was his main flaw, and eventually accumulated him stealing the holy corpse just to save his wife, only for it to backfire to translate the disease to his son. Sacrificing himself for his son and becoming a saint was the perfect end to Johnny. I 100% agree. We do not need any topics about that. Yes. My friend said Araki makes his male characters weird as fuck. You could just say, bizarre. I'm sorry. The comedic flow of part two ruined any chance of it being an amazing part. This is a scorching, burning hot take. Oh my god. This is a very good hot take. Because I know a lot of people within the JoJo community have a very deep love for part two. I have a very deep love for part two personally. But yeah, I don't feel like he's necessarily fully lying. I feel like some of the comedic flow was very, very weird. You know, not in the just, it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventures way weird. In the way that it makes me feel like, oh, you're kind of throwing the story off weird, or it's like interrupting the pacing weird. You know what I mean? Maybe one day I'll make a video on that and like go farther in depth on my explanation, but like that's not a bad hot take. I do enjoy that. And then to end it off, Toru was a cool villain if you consider the fact that one review is just him. Yes. I personally I don't think Toru the character is necessarily cool, but I think as a villain works pretty decent. I feel like he as a character works pretty decent. But Wonder of You, yeah, you throw in Wonder of You in and you realize, oh yeah, that's the same person. Well, ish, yeah. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 10K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Toru isn't a badly written villain, and Dio is arguably worse written. That is a hot take said by one of my Discord members, and today we are going to be going through some of their hot takes. Now, I asked for their hot takes. I wanted to know how they felt about JoJo's, what hot takes did they have, and these are ones I really need to share with you because, man, oh man, we got some good ones. And to start off talking about that first one, I personally, right, and I was just thinking about this a little bit ago, I think Toru isn't badly written. I don't, personally. I think he's actually pretty good written. As far as written better than Dio, I feel like he's around Dio. I don't know if it's better, but like, really, yeah, I feel like he's around him. Diego has better writing than Dio. Can I say that? Like, I want to give it to Diego so bad because I like Diego a lot more. But writing wise, yeah, I could say I could go further depth in. Personally, I can go further depth into Diego's writing than I can with Dio's. And honestly, to go back to the first hot take, I might have to go to over Dio. I'm sorry if this makes some people mad. I understand, but I'm sorry. Part 1 is actually an amazing part and it is way overhated and would have been top 4 if it was longer. Now, I think it would have been a lot higher. I think it is an amazing part 2. I've actually made videos on part 1 saying how much part 1 does need a lot of appreciation because it's a really good part. People down on part 1 because they say it's too basic, it's not bizarre enough, but I feel like a fair amount of bizarre shit happens in part 1 to where I can't be like, oh well, nothing bizarre happened. Bro, Dio resurrecting fucking niggas from medieval England, knights and shit. You gonna say this shit not bizarre? Now, top 4, my personal top 4 consists of part 4, part 7, part 6, and part 8. I think it could have gotten around there, but I don't know if I could ever see part 1 personally for me beating part 5 in terms of how intrigued I was. But I was still very locked in and engaged for part 1. That's the point I'm trying to make. Part 1 is very, very overrated. SBR is overrated. It's not a top 3 part. I don't have much to say on this. I just said SBR was a personal top 4 part to me. So it's pretty obvious I kind of disagree. Jotaro's time stop ability was simply a rushed last second idea. It's like, okay, I can somewhat see where someone's coming from when they do say this, but like, I feel like in the anime and manga there's some evidence to where you're like, maybe, or it's weird how he does it. At least in the anime, when he throws Iggy, isn't there like an effect or something that happens on the screen? I may be wrong with that, but I can't remember. And then also with I think it was Darby, when he's about to get this nigga to just pass out from just fear, he literally grabbed a drink out of nowhere, and Darby literally was like, "Where did you get that drink from? Where did you get that cigarette from?" I feel like it's more up in the air. Honestly, I can't call it. I don't want to call it. And I don't know if I could say it's a last second rushed idea because, again, I just feel like there was something a little bit there. Maybe it wasn't foreshadowed enough for some people's liking. Part 8 is one of the worst parts. The pacing is bad, it gets repetitive, and it takes to the last few chapters for the actual villain to be introduced. I personally disagree. But I say, you know, some of those are valid criticisms. There are times with the pacing I get, honestly, yeah, it was times with the pacing, like, it was like after maybe the first 30 chapters up to maybe like 20 chapters after that, so like up to like 50-ish chapters in, the pacing was very wonky. I feel like he got it back on track though. Repetitiveness, I didn't feel like it was repetitive, but then I read it in like different parts at very different periods in my life, and I agree. That's one of my main criticisms with part 8. That's one of the reasons I don't have it higher, is because Toru takes so long to be introduced in the part. You know what I mean? But to say it's one of the worst parts, I can't say that. You know, it may be because personally the vibes were high. I don't know, but I can't say it's one of the worst parts. And to end it off today, it says Diablo is one of my favorite villains. The only reason people say Diablo was bad is because they don't take into account he and Diablo are the same person and the same character. The reason Diablo's half of that character isn't expanded on more is because that's exactly the point of him. I liked it. I really do like this take. I really do like this take. This might be take of the day. Shit. You see, because when you think about it that way, because the idea to me has always been, well, they're two separate souls in the same body. But how can you say two separate souls when you've lived together and have been listening to each other for 33 years? You know, or for however long whichever personality came before or after. At the end of the day, when you look at them, it's all still one person, you know. So I can see it, especially when you look at the character-wise. Yeah, but if you do have some hot takes and you want to share them, you can share them in the comments. If you want a better chance to be in my hot take videos, go to the Discord link in my YouTube bio or in the description of this video. And until next time, we're on the road to 10K. Peace.